Hey guys, we're finally into the last faction edition of Imperial Inspection for Spirit of Rebellion. We're reviewing Star Wars Destiny cards, and today we're going to look at Yellow Hero, Rare, and Legendary cards. We'll get started off with the characters, starting with Chewbacca. Chewbacca is a legendary yellow character for the hero side. He has 12 health, so pretty good 12 health total at 12 points for regular and 16 for elite. So that's even a pretty good health to point cost ratio, I think. He's comes in with 1 range damage, a 2-for-1 ranged, a 2 melee, a resource, and a special. So he's really got this mixed damage type thing going that we're seeing a lot of recently. His special says, turn an opponent's die to a side showing damage, either ranged or melee, to deal that damage to a character. So you're not removing the die or resolving it, you're just turning it to that die to deal damage. So you're kind of setting yourself up for damage when you do this. There's a couple tricks you can keep in mind. If your opponent's out of resources, you can turn something to a damage side that costs resources, which either gives you time to disrupt them or other such things. So they might not be able to afford it and things like that. You can also turn unmodified sides into modified sides, thereby preventing some damage and dealing some damage at the same time. So that's a pretty cool ability. Not always super useful, but can be. But yeah, let's look at some decks with Chewie. So first I have E Chewbacca, E Akbar. This seems like a deck that everybody tries whenever we get a new powerful character, right? We throw Akbar with him. But with Chewie, he's cheap enough that you can have Elite Akbar, which is really cool. You're going to have access to leadership, you're going to have access to dug in, you're going to have access to defensive position, all that good stuff. You got a lot of range synergy going on between red and yellow. You're a little bit low on health total. You're sitting at 21, but Vader Raider's at 21, so we know that it can be a powerful health total. You don't need to have an astronomical amount of health. But yeah, I think this could be a pretty fun combo. I think red and yellow really lend themselves to each other right now. The next setup I'm looking at is if you didn't really like the idea of Akbar, you're not really going to mill with Chewbacca, you could throw Leia in instead. The problem with this is you're not going to be able to have the elite version of both these characters, so you can either run elite Chewie with regular Leia, or the other way around. You get a little bit more health, and you still get focus from your red character and access to all those great cards, and you get 3 ranged faces on Leia instead of the 1 ranged face that's on Akbar. So you can really rely on that ranged synergy once you get to guns that are providing modifiers and things like that. I think this could be a pretty fun thematic team. 23 points of health, pretty survivable, pretty fast, so you can claim the battlefield a lot. Finally, I have the Rebel Chewbacca. Chewbacca always ends up as a smuggler character in these games, because that's what he was in the movies, but he was a rebel too, and I'd really like to see a red version of Chewie someday. But anyway, we're looking at this, and here we're running a regular version of Chewbacca with a Rebel Commando from the red heroes of SoR, along with a Rebel Trooper. So we've got ranged synergy galore. I see 7 ranged sides across our 3 characters. We've got Guardian to keep people alive. We've got 29 health as our health total with Guardian. Rebel Trooper can be used in conjunction with Chewbacca. It's one of my favorite combinations from SoR, is to turn opponent's die to damage and then immediately remove that die using the Rebel Commando. Can be really powerful. So I think this setup could actually be really fun. Keep your important characters alive with the Trooper while you're doing a little bit of damage, and then focus your upgrades on Chewie and the Commando. Alright, the next character is Jyn Erso. She's 11 points of health, and she's a 15 for 20, so the unfortunate thing about Jyn is once you have that minimum cost of 15, right now at the heroes we have costed, there's no way to get Jyn into a 3-character deck. She's stuck either being the regular version in a 2-character deck or the elite version in a 2-character deck. She does have some awesome die faces, so she's got 2 ranged sides that are 2 value each. A 1 discard, a 2 discard, and a 1 resource. So here again we see one of those characters that has sort of 2 primary focuses, range damage and discard. She's not spread out over 4 to 5 icons like a lot of Awakening characters seem to be, mainly 4 I think. Her 11 points of health is pretty survivable, but for 20 points, that's a lot of points you're investing for just 11 health points. She has a really cool ability. The cost of your first yellow event you play each round is decreased by 1. So people no longer have to say, oh, well, they can't electroshock because they don't have any resources. You can electroshock pretty much every turn. You're going to see once we get to the events, there's some really cool events that work with Jyn, like if you have a character showing a discard face, you can play something from your discard pile, and other such things. So I think she's going to be really powerful. The big problem with her, like I said, is you can't have 3 characters, so you're limiting how much health you can get. You will be claiming a lot, which is great. With the speed of the game right now, I think that works. But long term, if the game slows down, I don't know if 11 points with only 2 characters is going to cut it. So we'll look at some decks with her. I know a lot of people have run Jhin with Akbar, Elite Jhin with regular Akbar on TTS. I think this is another combo that could be fun and could work. You are still really low on health, just like you are with Akbar, but you should be claiming the battlefields. That's good. You've got lots of discard synergy. You still have access to leadership and all that great stuff. The big thing that I've seen with these Jhin Akbar decks is if you get a couple pairs of fast hands on Jhin or something like that, if she rolls that 2/2 discard on multiple sides, or if her and Snap both roll it and you have a fast hands on each, you can discard 3 to 4 cards out of their hand before your opponent even gets to play. I know some people don't like the limiting options of other people before they get the chance to play them, but it's something that's in the game and it really lends itself to Jhin. So I think when you're running Jhins, you're going to end up running 2 fast hands, and it really works well with both Akbar and Snap. Snap gives you a little bit more control. You're limiting resources, providing resources to yourself. So ultimately, I think the 2 decks are very similar. You lose out in focus, but you gain some disrupt. Alright, this one is called Commandos. So this uses an elite version of Jhin with a Rebel Commando. So you're focusing a little more heavily on your ranged synergy here. You got 6 dice that you're starting with, and you have 6 damage faces that are all ranged across those dice. Sorry, not 3 dice that you're starting with. 6 ranged damage faces. You've got discard synergy between your 2 characters. There's a lot of red characters with discard in this set, so that's kind of nice. And that removing an opponent's die can really help you survive when you have a low health total. I think that could be really key to Jhin. I've seen a lot of people playing her, and they really have to focus on keeping her alive with control events, and the Rebel Commando could help out with that. Alright, now we're going to look at Maz. Maz has been a highly played character on TTS, and that is because she costs 8 or 11 points. So she is like the Balatik cost of the light side, and she has an interesting ability just like he does. So after you activate this character, you may resolve up to 2 of your dice. So those don't have to be 2 of Maz's dice. Those could be 2 of any of the dice you have in the field. So we've seen a lot of people run her with Poe, and they can activate those specials before they get removed. Or the best thing about Maz is she has 2 focus sides, so you can use her focus side to turn something to whatever you want. So you really need a special, or you really need something, and then you can focus that die and resolve it in that same turn. So that's pretty cool. She is low on health, right? Only 8 points of health, but just as good as those non-unique characters are for the most part that cost 8 points. So I think she's a really powerful character. The one thing I will say about her is she's not great for capturing battlefields. All of her die faces are a 1, and that kind of balances her strong ability. So you should never count on getting a 2 from Maz when you're rolling in for the battlefield. At the same time, you can throw her in with extra characters because she's cheaper, so it kind of balances itself out. But I've noticed when I put Maz in my deck, I end up winning the battlefield significantly less than when I don't have her. Alright, so I'm avoiding the common decks we've seen like Poe Maz and Maz Luke and things like that. But I think Baze Maz could be a really fun deck. I think I mentioned this in the red video too, and I've tested it a couple times on TTS since then, and it's really, really cool and powerful. You can really focus Baze to whatever side you need. If you end up fighting against someone who has those 4 non-unique characters for the villain side, you can focus yourself to a special and start pounding away on damage early. You're claiming all the time when you run Maz, which is really nice, so Baze will always get the chance to shoot first, especially once you start throwing fast hands on him and stuff like that. It actually turned out to be a really powerful deck combination, so I'm pretty excited to try out some more once we get real cards later this week. I wanted to do one thing with the blue character because I feel like I've been harping on red and yellow for the last 2 videos. And here we're going to look at Chirrut, Maz, and a hired gun. So you will be running all these characters at their regular versions. And the big problem people have had with Chirrut online is that he's that mixed damage type. But Maz fixes that a little bit with her focus and her ability to resolve things really quickly. I think this deck will work. I haven't tested it a lot, just a couple times. Just had some friendly play on TTS. And it's worked out pretty good. You're focusing on weapon upgrades, so you're not worrying about that blue ability clause from Chirrut. I mean, you're throwing in the handcrafted light bow and maybe a lightsaber for him if you want. but for the most part, you're taking blue for events, so it works out pretty well. You're sitting at 28 points of health, so very survivable, and you'll still end up claiming a lot, even in a 3-character deck because of Maz, so I think this could be a fun deck to play. Alright, the final character from SoR is the Outer Rim Smuggler. He comes in at 7 points of health, 8 points for his character cost, a 1 ranged, a 2 ranged, a 1 disrupt, a 1 discard, and a 1 resource. And he says, after you play the last card from your hand, gain 1 resource. Now, I know this has been errata just today, I think. It used to say, or now it says something like, the first time you play the last card from your hand, gain 1 resource. There was some infinite combo loop you could use with Return of the Jedi, or something that returned a blue event to your hand if you had 2 Outer Rim Smugglers. I'm not really sure it needed an errata. I mean, all it did was someone could stall the game out if they really wanted to act out all of those loops. But at the same time, that's not very sportsmanlike. I mean, people can get infinite resources through that way, but there were a ton of events that could have countered that. I know there's a new yellow event that will let you trade resources with your opponent, so it's kind of dangerous for you to do that because you could just be giving all that money to your opponent. Regardless, they errated it, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. At the same time, it doesn't really hurt him that much. I mean, you could have done something tricky where you drew cards after you played your last card. Like if you ran him with Luke, you could play your last card, activate Luke, draw a new card, play that as well, and try to keep gaining resources. But it was pretty much a niche thing other than this blue infinite loop thing. Alright, so we'll look at some combinations with him. The first one I thought of was using him in one of these Disrupt decks, and that is using Snap, the Outer Rim Smuggler, and the Rebel Commando. So you can use the elite version of Snap in this, and you still come out at 30 points. You're sitting at 25 points of health. The Commando is there to help you remove. All of your characters have Discard, 2 of them have Disrupt. You're going to control the battlefield a lot. Seems like it could be a really cool range synergy, well disrupting and discarding deck. It's a very balanced deck. You're not going all aggression, you're not going all control, but you have options for everything. I think the other deck with him actually got removed. Oh, nope, here it is. So there's another version that I've been playing. Removes red from us, so we lose Snap and we lose that Rebel Commando, but we take Han with 2 Outer Rim Smugglers. So we focus on disruption, a ton of disrupt from Han and the Smugglers. You're only running the regular version of Han to be able to fit the cost in, but you should have a ton of resources, a ton of range damage across your dies. You're sitting at 24 points, but you have like a ton of points extra, like artificial points from Han's ability and from Second Chance on any of your characters. Hopefully you're using Infamous and a lot of other cheap yellow events to burn through all your cards and get those resources you need for Outer Rim Smuggler quickly. Seems like it could be a fun team. Haven't tried it out too much yet, though. Alright, we're on to the upgrades and supports, so we'll start with the support Smuggling Freighter. It's a 1 cost and has a 1 disrupt, a 2 disrupt, a 1 resource, and a 2 resource, and then 2 blanks. And it says, after you resolve one of the dies showing a value of 2, place this support on top of your deck. So, I mean, you're going to get the most value out of this by not rolling those 2s and not having to play it over and over again. Not sure what I think about this card. I mean, it does only cost 1, but it doesn't have, that power that something like Backup Muscle has for you. So I'm not sure where it's going to find its place yet. I mean, you could use this in a Poe deck. I'm not sure how that would work once you pay the cost to put him into play. If he would go right back on top of your deck, it seems like it'd be a little bit silly. He does have 2 blanks, so he's going to hurt you for Feel Your Anger. Could be a useful card in a Disrupt, I have money, you don't have money kind of deck. But at the same time, I'm not a big fan of the ability. I mean, I guess it could help if Mill becomes a really, really, really strong thing. It's an option you have where you can keep re-rolling this die to put it back on top of your deck, because you check for that Mill condition at the end after both people have passed, or one is claimed and one is passed. So you can put it back on top of your deck and save yourself from a Mill loss. But yeah, that's the Smuggling Freighter. We'll move on to the Bowcaster. So this is one of the legendary yellow upgrades. Bowcaster cost 4, has a 2 damage, a 4 for 1 damage, and a +3, so really strong damage sides. A 2 disrupt and a special that says deal 1 unblockable damage each to up to 2 different characters. So you kind of pew hit each guy for 1. So it's like the lightsaber ability, but you're hitting 2 different guys. It does have redeploy, so that's great. If I'm going to spend 4 on something, if that character dies, I don't want it to go away the next turn. So, big fan of the redeploy. I think this has a lot of potential. I mean, if we keep seeing Han Rey shenanigans, if you have enough money, you can Infamous this in, and then get 2 actions off of Rey, roll it in, do a bunch of shenanigans. It costs 4, so later when you draw your one with the Force, you can play it for free. Lots of good potential there. If Rey happens to die, oh well, now Han has a giant bowcaster that he can shoot people with. Seems like it's going to be a really good card. Alright, Lone Operative. This is one of my favorite cards from the set. So it costs 3, a 2 melee face. I'm a big fan of hero cards especially that support the melee side of damage. We have a ton of cards that are supporting range damage between yellow and red, but we don't get a ton of love from melee. I mean, we have survival gear that kind of helps melee decks out, and then it's mostly all focused in blue, but this provides us another chance. So Lone Operative, 2 melee face, a 2 discard face, a 1 resource, and then 2 specials. The specials say heal 2 damage from the attached character, or 3 damage if it's the only character you have left in play. So this works great in those Jin decks, right? If you get a copy of this on Jin and 2 fast hands, and she's elite, you're rolling 3 dice in that all have the chance to roll 2 discard. You can resolve them both right away. Or say Jin's your last character left, and you roll 2 specials, or you roll a special with your Lone Operative. Well, now you can heal 3 damage and discard 2 from their hand. That's really powerful. I'm excited to run it with someone like Padawans too, or something that focuses more melee heavy. I think it'll be a pretty powerful card. So I'm pretty excited about the healing they're adding to the game. It really gives characters a new sense of survivability. It's hard to imagine, I guess, even with the Padawans being only at 7 health. I mean, if you're going to get a 3-cost upgrade on them that's not a weapon, and count on it keeping them alive, I mean, your opponent's going to be able to swing for 7 a lot of the times, so you've really got to count on shields and other things to allow you to use it, but I think it has a lot of potential. Alright, the final card for yellow supports and upgrades is Maz's Goggles. It's a unique card, so you're only going to be able to have 1 in the field at a time, and it says to play, spot a yellow character, just like Thermal Detonator. And then it has a special that is look at an opponent's hand and discard an event from it. Any event. So you could be discarding a No Mercy, you could be discarding an Electroshock, you could be discarding He Doesn't Like You. It doesn't matter what the cost is, doesn't matter what the color is, that's great. It has a 1 focus, a 2 focus, 2 resources, and that special. So this is ideal on Maz, right? You can roll her in as your first action if she has this on her. Resolve the special, get whatever nasty discard your opponent has from his hand. I think this could be fun in a deck that uses Maz, Akbar, and somebody to try to mill hands as fast as possible. It might even be Maz, Akbar, Rey. I'd have to look at how those point costs work. I think that would work. You could do Elite Rey, regular Maz, regular Akbar for 30 points, 10, 8, and 12. And then you can run things like Scouts, so you can play 2 Scouts on Rey first turn, you can play this on Maz, and start really discarding things from your opponent's hand just through specials, not just through discard symbols. Pretty cool legendary. Not sure it's going to make sense in every yellow deck. A 1 of, I think we'll see in a lot of yellow decks. We might see 2 ofs, but I don't think it's such a key card that you need to have it. So it might be something that mill decks run 2 of, or decks that like to discard or control what events are in your opponent's hand might run 1 of this and 1 of an event that discards from your opponent's hand. But still pretty powerful card, especially for just 1 resource cost. Alright, so that concludes going through all of the villain and hero rares and legendaries. We'll do one more video looking at dice cards where we'll look at all the neutral rare cards, and then we'll move on to commons, uncommons, and battlefields. Thanks for tuning in.